you? I work today, so I just decided, because it's right before I have to pick up the kids, I wanted to do a video, much requested, about ramp versus CS, my opinion and what I feel, and my opinions on both, because I know a lot of you guys have an opportunity to do both, and you don't know which one to go for, women and men, and so I kind of wanted to just talk to you guys about that, my opinion, and what I've had to go through. Now, if I look down, it's because I have my planner right here, and I wrote my notes. So, okay, so let's start from the beginning. Okay, so with ramp, the negative part to doing ramp is the weather when it's extreme weather. I mean, when it's great weather, it's awesome. I love being out in the breeze and it's wonderful, and then the sunshine and everything. But I live in California, and you guys know California is a desert, so it gets really, really hot. So even if it says 95 degrees outside, it's really like 105 degrees, 115 degrees, because when you're out on the tarmac, the air, there's no trees, and then you have the jet fuel in the engines and everything. It just ends up feeling like you're in this really, really hot sauna. Those hot weather. Some of you guys that live in those other areas in the U.S. and other parts of the world, the cold weather is probably really bad for you guys. We have rain, but we don't have the extreme weather like some of you guys do with the negative, like negative 10 degrees, negative 15 degrees. For me, when I'm outside and it's like 65, 60 degrees, I'm freezing. So the extreme weather is really hard when you're doing the ramp. On the other hand, when you're CS, you don't have the same weather problems because you're inside most of the time, 99% of the time. Sometimes if you're walking from the ticket counter through the gates, depending on where you go, you do go outside, but there's always a way. If you want to go and stay in there and maybe even go through TSA, you don't have to even go out in the weather. Other negatives or problems with when you're doing ramp is you're lifting a lot of heavy bags, and if you have any pre-existing conditions, or if your body's not as strong as it like a normal body would be, or constantly picking up heavy bags. Like for me, the hardest part was when we had to do military bags, and I don't mind one or two, but when we have an entire plane of military bags and they're huge and cumbersome, it's challenging, and then add that with the weather, it's very challenging. Being on your knees and stooping and all that kind of stuff. With CS, you do pick up bags sometimes. It just depends on your station. A lot of times, sometimes if you're at gates, you're not picking bags up at all. If you're at ticket counter at my station, you are, they weigh their bags, you take their bags, and then you just put it behind you in the conveyor belt. Some airlines or some airports, the larger airports, the CS agents don't even do that. They have contract workers that do that, or the passengers take their bags with them to the next station, the next like the next TSA station or wherever. Loud noises. So when you're ramp, you're exposed to a lot of loud noises, and you don't even realize, little by little you can lose your hearing. It's not probably as obvious to most people, but maybe you're having to listen to your music a little bit louder than normal, or your television set louder than normal because you're so used to loud noises. Now, we can't go outside without wearing headgear or without ear protection, so it's helped us a lot. I personally thank the Lord I don't have hearing damage, because every single time I was out there, and every single time I'm out there now, I make sure that I put those ear protection on. There's different types, over the ears, inside the ears, but just make sure you do that just to take care of yourself. The CS, same thing. You're going to have problems with that. So when you are moving the jet bridge is very loud. It's got this loud bell sound. Make sure you have the ear protection. When the plane is coming in, you're right next to the plane. Just make sure you have the air protection. Jet fuel. When you're out there and you're inhaling the jet fuel, I think after a while, if you're constantly doing it, it's not good for your lungs. I'm a respiratory therapist by trade, so I know all about inhalation and all of that kind of stuff that do affect people's lungs, and sometimes it goes in and turns into asthma or different respiratory problems. But just kind of make sure that you're not around it when they're refueling. Maybe go to a different section where you're not having to constantly ingest that stuff. And you're around that when you're on the ramp. Sometimes with CS, I mean, if the gates, and you're at the jet bridge, but you don't inhale it as much, okay? You have to be extremely safety conscious, especially when you are on the ramp, because there's so much going on. You have the planes moving, you have the carts moving, you have the belt loaders moving, the people that are doing the jet fuel, the cleaners, all of that. There's so much going on. The people that are doing the meals, the craft services, and all that's moving. So you have to make sure that you're not running into people, that they're not running into you, and you just have to constantly be on it, be on all the time. Safety conscious for CS would be more like the jet bridge, making sure you're not running into that plane or hitting that plane, and just making sure that you're taking your time and doing it right. When you are moving the jet bridge, you have to make sure you have a guide person. You cannot move the jet bridge without a guide person, because if you move that jet bridge back, and you can damage the plane, you can damage equipment, you can damage and hurt other people. So you have to be very, very safety conscious, actually, for both. The great thing about being on the ramp is the fresh air. You're not stuck in the terminal and in the cold AC or whatever. You do have that extra fresh air, especially on beautiful days. And I think about 70% of the time we have great weather in California. A lot of time, and about 30% you don't have good weather, because we have extreme heat, and then sometimes we have some rain. And but when you don't have that extreme weather, to us it's extreme weather, it's beautiful. It just feels so great to be outside, breathing the fresh air, and just it's beautiful. But on the other hand, when you are in that extreme weather, it's nice to have the AC and the warm terminal when you're doing the CS. I hope it's clear to you guys, and me going back and forth, because you guys wanted to know ramp versus CS. If I'm not clear, please let me know, and I will definitely answer your questions. I feel like when you are ramp, obviously you are hyper vigilant, making sure that with the different things going on, that you're very safety conscious. But there is a point in which there's not a lot of movement with the with aircraft and all that stuff, and everything's just stationary, and you have a lot more time. You have a lot more downtime. You can laugh, you can chill out, you can just be silly, and that's what I love about it. Also, the fact that when we do have delays, when you are delayed for a ramp person, and especially if you only have one plane on the ground or two planes on the ground, and there's nothing to do, you can chill out. You can talk to your friends. You're just waiting until they need you again, and you're out and you're outside and you're talking and you're just like whatever. When you're doing delays with CS, it stinks, because you're on the whole time, and there's passengers that are angry, there's passengers that are stressed out and crying and all this stuff, and you have to calm them down. You have to rebook. Sometimes you can't rebook because there's nothing. If it's a weather thing and every single station is messed up, and you're like, I can't, there's nothing, sorry. And when there's weather, you cannot rebook them to another airline. You cannot, because that's an act of God. When it comes to air traffic control and weather, we can't do much. If it's our fault, like if it's a crew that's late, or if it's mechanical, or if it's our fault, the airline's fault, then there's so much more we can do. We can rebook to other airlines. We can rebook and pay for their hotel. We can pay for their food. We can pay for their transportation, all of that stuff. So in a way, when it is our fault, it makes it so much easier, because we have a lot more options to give our passengers. What else? Ramp is awesome because sometimes you don't feel like talking to passengers, and sometimes you just want to be around your peeps. And so you don't have to, most of the time, you don't have to interact with the passengers, about 99% of the time. The only time I ever interacted with the passengers is when I was doing the carry-on bags, and I had to go up to the jet bridge and actually get their bag, and then they would hand it to me, or I'd say thank you or whatever. But with CS, sometimes, you're always on. Everyone's always watching you and coming up and asking you, am I at the right gate? Am I here? Am I there? And that's okay. I don't mind that at all, but you are always on. You can't be silly as much. You can kind of, haha with the passengers, be nice or whatever, but you can't be silly. You know, you have to always stay professional and realize that you are the face of the airline and that people are watching you. So that is one of the negatives of customer service. But then on the other hand, that can also be a positive, because you do meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of passengers that are so interesting, and you learn a lot from them, and you find out where they're from and all that kind of stuff. So that is what I love about it as well. There's positives and negatives to that. Also, for me, the negative for CS is we have something, and I know a lot of the airlines are having this right now. It's called basic economy. It's not normal economy, it's basic economy. And it's a very confusing ticket. And because it is confusing, passengers get upset. They can't pick their seats. They can't take carry-on, any of that stuff. So when they're checking in at the ticket counter and they're confused about it, and I'm like, oh, sorry, you can't take that carry-on bag. And they were just like, oh, I always take it. It's a carry-on. It's small. Da, da, da. I go, no. You don't have normal economy. You have basic economy. So they get confused because I guess it's a new thing. And that's kind of having to deal with that and explain basic economy over and over again. That can be a negative for CS. Also, there's cutoff times. There's 45-minute cutoff time for bags. So if they're trying to check a bag, this is for all passengers. If they're trying to check a bag within 45 minutes of the plane going out, they can't check it. It's too late because it has to go through TSA and get screened and all that stuff. So we have a 45-minute cutoff for that. And then for check-in is a 30-minute cutoff. So passengers don't understand. If they get there 22 minutes before the flight, you cannot go on the plane. And they are like, well, the plane's still here, I'll run up. And no, we have to be very strict on that. The computers shut off. We don't have a choice. And they get upset, and then you got to rebook them, and you know, that whole rigor and more. So that's a hard part of CS. What else? A positive of CS is obviously, let's see here. There's many different aspects of the job. Same with ramp though. You know, I love ramp because you can be bag room, you can be loader, you can be offloader, you can do where you're in charge. CS, same thing. You can be at gates, you can be a ticket counter, you can be at BSO. So there's different things. It's never boring. I know that sometimes it's boring for certain stations because they bid for certain things, like they are always ticket counter, or they are always gators, they are always different places. So it can be boring for them, but smaller stations like mine, you get to be at different places, and so you never get bored. I know this video was all over the place. I hope I explained my opinion of what I like the best and the differences between the two. They're both great. They both give me flight benefits. They both help me to get my airline itch out, where I'm at the airport and I get to be around airline peeps. So either one, it's up to you guys. If you want more of a mentally draining thing, you would do CS, but it's also fun. Or if you want something physically draining, you do ramp. So one is mental, one is physical, but obviously ramp, you still have obviously mental, but it's a different vibe. So that's it. I hope I answered your question, and I will talk to you guys later. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.